All right, welcome to the first uh, kind of like nail the mix style mix walkthrough of a Disfiguring the Goddess project. This is the Blood Animal Remaster project that is finished. This is being recorded on December 11th, but I'm planning on uploading this to distribution. It'll be released on streaming, I think February 9th, but I'm hoping to have it on Bandcamp at this time of you watching this video. So check it out, Bandcamp, link below. Also shout out the Discord server, login. So a couple things I'll say first too. My CPU with Ableton and this project has been crazy, so I've bypassed a couple things on the mix bus, which I'll go through. This is also my first time attempting this with OBS, so it might not sound the best. I did a few checks and tests, so hopefully we're ready to rock. The next one will be better. But I've also been watching, not a lot, but I started watching Nail the Mix, so it's kind of going to follow a similar fashion without someone asking me any questions and a Q&A, of course. But this is an amateur version. I hope it's helpful for producing death metal and mixing music. Also, if you use Ableton, I think this will be specifically amusing. So first, I'm going to go through the routing. As you can see, these are my main buses. Drums, instrumental, and vocal. The clean vocal, the mids, which is the bass guitar, and the guitars, and then the synths all go through this instrumental bus. And then we have a drum bus, vocal bus. This clean vocal thing is not applicable in the song. The song we'll be looking at is So Vast is Art, So Narrow Human Wit, which I think is going to be kind of the lead out track of the record. I don't know what track number it is. I think 7. So I'll break this down just from going top to bottom. I'll get into my drums first. I used Superior Drummer on this record. So it's MIDI, and then the channels, there's an overhead. This main one is a room. There's an overhead. There's a kick, a snare, and a tom. The kick and the snare are in the same bus. There's no processing on this bus. I was triggering some sidechaining action with those, but I'm not actually doing that anymore. So let's get into it. This is the Superior kit I'm using. It's Death from the Death and Darkness. I started off with the Jeff Tones preset. I kind of went through here and adjusted some slight. It's actually some weird shit I'm seeing right now. Like, why is this off? You know what I mean? I guess it's off in general. That microphone, that condenser's not even on. I didn't touch that, but I touched a lot of these levels. I didn't really mess with the EQing at all. You can see my outputs here. So output 1 and 2, they had this tape sim thing on it, and this tape sim had a plus 9 dB of gain on it. I don't think I left that on anything. No. So the toms are the only output that don't have the original. Because if you're new to Superior, like, these are all the microphones, these are the buses, and then you could see they get sent to the main out, and the main out usually has some type of processing on it if you're using a preset. So if you send the kick to a different out because you want to route it into your DAW, it's going to go through one of these things, and then it's going to bypass the processing on the main. So sometimes I copy that over, sometimes I don't, and just put my own. I put my own anyways. But I really like the way this kit sounds. I don't think I messed with anything. I might have changed the snare drum. I've changed a couple of the cymbals and stuff. But these Death and Darkness the kits are amazing and the presets are really good. Look how many things I have. It's amazing. But these are all amazing, you know. And I got my own, but I ended up just going. And I don't think I really auditioned many drum kits on this. When I opened up the remaster, I think this was probably the first one I picked, you know. Sometimes it's just how it be, you know. You just open up a preset and you're just like, all right, let's go. So this is specifically, this one particularly is the room mic. I did a room and then I did the overheads separate. The processing on it, it's probably pretty straightforward. Cutting some high mids, low pass, high pass. 1176. Barely doing anything. Probably could be slamming that. That probably sounds better. I'm gonna have to remaster the whole album. Huh. We'll leave it for now. But this has the same shit copied over on the rooms or the overheads. It's funny, like before I did this, I wanted to go through and kind of like clear the project file up and like look through what I was gonna do ahead of time. Didn't do it. See, the overheads are hitting. I don't think I had the settings up. Sorry, I know I have two monitors going. So there's a chance I might have to re-render the whole record, because that definitely sounds better. The reason that this one is so lively and this one is so dramatic is, if you know anything about this unit, you can press in all these buttons, and I think the ratio becomes like 100-to-1, so it's ridiculous, and it's really popular on room mics. Yeah, that's obviously better. So what I'm going to do, this is funny, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass the original. I'm going to duplicate it. Ableton's been so silly lately, so slow. And then I'm going to mix it. I don't want it ridiculous. I just want to like, maybe like, so this is before, or this is after, this is before. After. It's definitely better. So congrats to us. We already made the record better. And I got to re-render the whole thing. So moving on. Kick. And again, there's a bunch of processing in Superior that we looked at earlier. So just like bear in mind, you know, big mid cut. What's going on with the kicks? Probably the same thing. Okay, yeah. So the kick is like, you know, there's really only the low end and the top end. There's like this really great Noisia video where they talk about like how if you remove, or maybe it's not Noisia, but maybe it's a Fab Filter video, where if you remove all the mids from a kick, like your ears just like make up the way you perceive audio, just like fills it in. Really interesting. I'm butchering that, by the way, but I would go look for that. So kick. I think it seemed too bright, so I just kind of muffled it. You know, it's a pretty muffled EQ. Max bass just makes it sound thicker. Max bass is a great plugin. It's so silly, but it's so good. Yeah, it sounds way better. Didn't use compression on it. Little SSL, Native Instruments style stuff. Saturn. Kick designer preset. Crunches it up. So then I'm clipping it with this new clipper I got from that one guy, Luca, on YouTube. I like this clipper a lot. I've got the maximizer turned on, but I'm not putting any gains. This doesn't do anything. You know, this only works if you drive it up, it adds input as it lowers output. But if you use the maximizer on, it's just like doesn't remove the output, keeps the output at 0. That's basically what that does. So I'm driving, instead of increasing the gain in the clipper itself, I'm just adding gain to it via utility. And let's switch over and take the clipper off. We'll put it on again. So it's not to 0. Oh, we should probably look at the drum bus. Parallel compression. Just doing 1176 again. Great. So the way this might look funny if you're not used to Ableton, but this is a thing I like to do a lot in Ableton. Instead of creating an aux and then sending it to this bus, you can just do a rack. So I've got like my dry, and then I got the parallel. And then I turn the parallel down 8 dB. Sounds great. I got a little bit of Sue 2 on the parallel. I don't know why I thought that was great. I'm not gonna, well, let's see. Smooths it out. Inflator, love this thing. Golfos, after inflator. Bunch of recovery. Tame. Just kind of, I don't know, like listen to this. Just makes it sound like way less static. And then I'm clipping it again. And I'm actually driving gain this time. I'm hard clipping it too. Adding about 3 dB a gain. Let's see what the signal's hitting afterwards. So it's already going above 0, and then I'm clipping it and driving it. It's maximized too. I should probably explain something too about how this session is set up. Kind of jumping around a little bit, my first time doing this. So if you see, these are the 3 buses that go to the master. They're all at 0. So I'm clipping to 0. I like that. I like how that plugin's named Clip to 0 too. I'm clipping to 0, and then and then you could do this. I believe so. You can do this in Cubase, and you can do this in Ableton. I'm not sure if every DAW you can do this in, but if I turn my master bus off and turn my gain off, it's gonna be clipping like a mofo. And you could render that, and I think Ableton hard clips it when you render it. There's actually a lot of producers in dance music that do that, where they just like literally leave it like that, and then when they render it, Ableton just chops it. I don't like to do that yet. So I turn it down 8 dB. It's still kind of like touching, but you know, I'm doing stuff in my master. And then I clip the master. So all my channels are clipped. I should say I'm working with Barefoot Speakers, and the Barefoot Speakers are really, really, really good at like mixing with little dynamic range in the mix. Like I'll have everything clipped to 0, my master's clipped, and I can still like hear everything on these Barefoots. They're awesome. So it's something about them, because I was kind of doing this before I got the Barefoots, but when I got the Barefoots, it just like, it was the biggest improvement I've ever made in the history of me ever making music. So my advice to anyone who's like thinking of spending any kind of like serious money on anything music, just like get the best speakers. Like if you had the option of like spending like $5,000 on like plugins and outboard gear, if that's what you're thinking about, I wouldn't do it. I just put $5,000 into speakers. You know, I don't know why I never did it before. I put tons of money into speakers, but I never like went to that upper tier. You know, the difference between like excellent speakers and just great speakers. These are excellent. So this is the master. I have all these things on as well. I'll bypass them so we don't get any CPU stuff. I got Gullfoss again. I'm using just the regular one because the master version was just crushing my CPU. So I love it. Gullfoss is so awesome. I'm using a little bit of compression. Barely. I like it though. I'm using the Waves one because I like the UAD one, but the I don't have a satellite anymore. So I you know, this is the UAD one, but it's native. So if you know anything about that fiasco, this is probably barely tapping also. A little more, but it's parallel. Actually, it almost sounds a little too compressed. But again, I'm in my headphones. I don't like making decisions in my headphones anymore. I only trust the Barefoots at this point. So I'm not going to mess with that. And I should, when I come back and I double check this compressor issue, I should be wary of what I did. Inflator, I got max bass going. It makes a stupid difference. That's a silly plugin. Inflator, love this thing on the master. Not a lot. It's just like, I've 8B'd that thing all day and there's no way I would take it off. Saturn, this is a really good tip for everybody who likes Saturn. This Magic Mastering BM preset is probably one of the best presets of all time. I use it on everything. I love it with like when you're in dance music and you put it on like a bass. It's the best. But I slapped it on my master at 25% mix. Let's check out the differences. It's awesome. And then clip to 0. See, here is like where I kind of screw around. This is how I do this. I like how we did drums. I didn't finish the tom drum yet. And then we went straight to the... Because I think the mastering chain and then the bussing is like, in some ways, like the most important part. You know, everything else is really important, but like, you kind of need to like have a feel for like how the whole shebang's gonna go. So this is the Pro L2. I have it not doing anything, and this is just for checking the loudness, basically. So if I turn it off, or turn the clip off, and turn the limiter on, actually let's move this, we can see this meter right here. I'll turn Pro L off. So like here, before that's on, it's like barely clipping. So I'll kind of use this to like see how much I'm chopping off the top, right? And that's about 3 dB. So that's kind of like my starting point with clip to 0. It's at 4 right now. But then with this is when I use Pro L to look at the LUFs. And my target is around 5. If I'm going below 5, that's fine. But my target is around 5, because 5 is super loud. There's plenty of parts I think we'll probably get to 4.5, which is very normal or fine too, because 4.5 is super standard in dance music. And I know this is totally different dynamics, but like, it's just experimental here. You know what I mean? I'm figuring stuff out by doing it. This will probably be... Alright, so we're at 4. It's so loud. At one point I had this record mixed to -1.5 and it ripped. So I'm going extra loud on this. I think Disfiguring's always been really loud. And then there was a while, like Caterpillar and the original Blood Animal were not loud because I had crazy tinnitus. I didn't want to listen to loud shit. But now I kind of know how to do it. So we're back to loud, baby. So that's the master bus. Let me mute some stuff so we don't get any CPU stuff. Hope you guys appreciate how transparent this whole thing is. I'm sure my next album is going to be different. I think this is going to... A lot of what I learned here and a lot of the things I'm doing here, I'm going to be carrying over to my next records, but I feel like the next record I'm going to do differently. This stuff is just for effects, for like some whole master bus effects on a couple tracks. This utility right here is so I can fade the gain. So every single song I do like a little dip at the end, so I don't get any like delay or room mic that just like ends everything. It like gets sloped off, right? This session too, I have the whole album in one session. There's pros and cons to that. Pros, your whole mix is consistent. Cons, it just gets to be a little much. So yeah, that's... Turn the Pro L off. Let's go to the instrumental bus. Actually, let's go to vocals first. Now, again, like this project, it's a remaster. I think I swapped, I cleared everything from the original, basically. But I've like reworked this a couple times. I did an initial mix that was basically all me importing all like the goods from the Sooth 2 EP onto this one. And then I watched the Joey Sturgis. That's funny that this is clipped. Okay. The Joey Sturgis mixing Oceano was very helpful. I feel like that whole video was like almost exactly what I was doing with this. So that was like really reassuring and really helped me fine tune a couple little things. And then I watched the Amur one with those two guys. I think it's like Drew and Jeff, and that was like my favorite one. That one was probably the most impactful, but they both were very impactful. And just combining what those guys were doing with what I'm already kind of had going on, you know, the sound I already had going on. Because that was kind of my goal with this, is just to like really push, see how far I could push my production to grow the most, to set me up for the records I'm going to be working on next, basically. So this record, as many of you know, and some of you don't know, has two vocalists, me and Garrett. So I had, I just did it like this. I was all on one. Garrett was all on another. You see our mains. The mains is like just straight or a center, and then a left and right. Garrett actually has a duo. Does he have any duo on this one? No, but he's got duo on this one. So duo is a Atari's. I don't think I'm saying that right. I've never said that word out loud. Ooh, I'm using Sidewinder. I swear to you, I thought I was using duo on the original or on the final. Let's hear it. Sidewinder. So Sidewinder is a plugin that Joey Sturgis has had out for a long time. I've had it for a long time. I don't know why this sounds like a mistake. Whatever. I'm just going to leave it. Duo's great plugin, though. It's a vocal doubler. I use it on a bunch of songs. I can't believe this is what I'm using. Alright, it's definitely widening it a bit. It has a little, like, Sidewinder has a lot less of, like, an effect sound to it, where Duo clearly sounds like an effect. So that's probably why I went for the Sidewinder in that instance for Garrett's, like, affected. Because there's a lot of vocals on the record. Because I was able to re-record vocals in the remaster, but I didn't bring Garrett in to re-record anything. And you could see, like, on these later tracks, Garrett had... Did I move something? Oh my god. I'm going to ruin this project doing this. Garrett in the later tracks did a lot of left and right tracking, but in the earlier stuff, not so much. So you can see he has a lot more duo. And then later on, you know, we'll keep the name duo. I like calling it duo than Sidewinder. Oh yeah, it's the track. Try to keep it on the same track, even though they're all in here. So the main, I used to use this Easy Mix preset for all the Disfiguring vocals. Death Metal Vox Comp. I used it on Deprive and Black Earth Child. Sounds great. But I opted for the gain reduction plugin and then a DS afterwards. So that's kind of like the same on every single channel except for the duo, of course, which has that. Plus some clipping, which is just hard clipping. No gain. And then this is interesting. And then I'm cutting a bunch of sides, which I'm creating with the widener. I'm not going to ask too many questions. I did it at one point. It sounded good. I've been used to it for a while now. I'm not going to change it now. Another interesting thing, too, is Garrett's left and right is 25, then my left and right is 40. So mine's are a little wider, which is interesting. Garrett's chain and my chain are almost identical. The only difference is Garrett, I have a little bit more soothe applied. And then mine just has less. And it looks like the same. I remember at one point they were less, but now they're the same. So as you can see, Golfos is here again. Golfos is kind of everywhere. I use Golfos everywhere. Don't be afraid to use it everywhere. Even in like these really subtle amounts, it's really good. So those are like, that's Garrett's main. I'm not compressing these, which is funny. I'm not going to ask questions why. This album's done, okay? I have the compressor on, but it's bypassed. And then in the main, I'm turning it all down right at the beginning by 13 dB. And then doing Golfos to the whole bus, de-essing the whole bus, and then I'm compressing it. Pretty fat compression. And then doing a little bit of crazy stuff. Some dips, a little boost, a cut. I almost always cut a bit of the highs off of most things. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens when I go through the rest of the session. What a funny nail the mix style. I don't know what you call it. They kind of like nailed that. Like, I guess a master class people call it. I don't know. So compressing it again. No makeup gain. Barely touching it. Did we look at the Pultec? No. Some EQ. Yeah, sounds great. And then this is like when you have effects on vocals, you can do it via sends and then send them back into the reverb, the bus. This is like what I was talking about with an Ableton thing. So here's the dry. Lexicon reverb. So when you do reverb, you almost always want to do something like that where you're EQing it. Especially if it's like a static reverb like this is, where it's always on. You definitely want to EQ it. And every single effect on here, I'm side chaining to the vocals. So they're always... You can hear it, right? Then I have a vocal hall, just an Ableton reverb. This is more so like the tail reverb. Hear that? So this is kind of more of the tail reverb, or this is more of like the actual reverb. A little bit of delay. Same situation. It's always on, but it's being sidechained constantly. And I'm also EQing that. A little bit of Saturn for distortion. Brutal. It's brutal. I almost want to turn that down. If I'm going to render out the whole freaking thing again, I almost want to turn that down. It's just the headphones again. And then I got this on. I don't know where this is being automated somewhere. And then I'm turning it into the clipper. So I'm driving it into the clipper, and then I'm adding gain in the clipper also. So it's clipped. Instrumental bus. Golfos on the whole thing. So it's like, if you think about it, like if I have got Golfos on, you know, one of the vocal buses, and then the vocal bus, and then I got it again on the master, it's like, to me, that's like a bunch of times where the signal is being like morphed to where Golfos wants it to be. And Goldfuss is interesting in the sense, if you go read about it on their website, where the curve that they're trying to like get the signal to go to is like based off of basically like a pink noise, but it's based off of a waterfall. So to me, it's like just epic conceptually when I'm using it. Like, just get everything to sound like that waterfall. All right, clean vocals. There's no clean vocals on this track. So instrumental bus. There's Goldfuss, and then I went through this a couple different ways. I tried to get I used Track Spacer at first. Actually, was doing my own gate at first, which was just the Pro G. It's just gating the mids of the kick and the snare to the whole mix. And then I ended up on this that I kind of got from Jeff and Drew mixing a Muir, where they just sidechain. So anytime the vocals are happening, this part's getting compressed, which I thought it was the best. So that's what I went with on this one. Got a doggy in the background. Amateur, nail the mix style. Amateur. So this is the mids. This is the bus for the guitars and the bass. Guitars sound like this. Bass sounds like this. Brutal. Together. Now, I decided I was going back and forth on compressing this a lot, and for some reason I just couldn't take this off. I just liked it too much. So we're compressing the bass. Looks like 4 dB of gain reduction. I'm adding 4 dB back. It just like does something. That was like the thing. I kept taking it on and off, but I like it. Using an inflator, a lot of it. Look at that. A lot of inflator. And then I hate mids on guitars and bass. I like scooping the mids a lot. I didn't really do a ton of that on this mix, but I did. It's always been compressed. Goldfuss, again, the best plugin of all time. This is like my effect when I have a telephone. Let's see if I have a telephone at all. Yeah, I do. So what I did is I have a reverb of the whole room, because I kind of wanted that like it's like live almost, and then I have a telephone effect with a reverb after it. I like the combo. And then when I want the effect on, I just turn the whole rack on. And then Endless Smile for like anytime I need to fade something out a little bit, air it out, filter it. Endless Smile, this generic preset, and like when you turn it, I'll show you. Like it high passes it and adds reverb at the same time. Just like perfect for adding a little bit of space. And then I have like an actual low pass that I don't really mess with that much. I think I mess with it mainly when I'm using Endless Smile, if that makes sense. And then I'm reducing the gain a little bit, and then I'm soft clipping it. But it's not by much. There's a whole like thing you could look into on YouTube about soft clipping, and this is how you do it. Well, you can do it with the saturator in Ableton too, but I like the glue compressor, and I just keep that mix on all the way 0. It'll still soft clip if you have it this button enabled. So let's get into the bass. The bass went through a few iterations. I was using this thing where I took Easy Bass and Trillion, and I used the high end of Easy Bass and the low end of Trillion. But I eventually recently got Gin Bass. Shout out Gin Bass. What's the company that makes this again? Submission Audio. They make a lot of cool products. I really want to get their Maximizer, give that a whirl, but this has been making rounds on the internet, and the kind people at Gin Bass have hooked it up, and I honestly freaking love it. I was interested in this because I was thinking about this today, which one I went with, the pick or the finger. I think the finger sounds better. I didn't mess with any of this stuff. I want to mess with that. I turned the humanize all the way up. The finger sounds way more brutal to me. Sometimes I gotta turn the vocals off to get a vibe of the instrumental. We'll leave it the pick on for now. The pick is obviously a lot more present, but there's something about the brutal of the finger. So Easy Mix bass. I don't know what it is about Easy Mix, but they got great bass tones. I could have reamped the bass, but I just got a GC, or a QC, I mean, a Quad Cortex. But I didn't want to just, I wanted to be done with this record. So I just said this sounds fine. And Easy Mix is great. But on future records, I'll probably be reamping the MIDI bass. The most badass swoop of all time. Hell yeah. And then compressing it. This is probably the Pro MB Master. Oh, this is Magic Punch. This is the other really good preset on Saturn. I don't know what it is about it, but this one, and they're both by this BM dude. But BM, pretty much anything in the Saturn presets that says BM is a great preset. And then I'm layering it all with a sine bass. I can't hear that on my headphones right now, but I feel like I had it pretty dialed in on the Barefoots. I experimented with like this being a lot louder, and I think for the record that that Blood Animal is, with it being like a lot more death metal and like not as deathcore or like core in general in terms of like rock elements or structuring, and how it's just like has like a more lively death metal feel to it. I chose to go with a much quieter sub bass level, but I can see me bumping that up in the future depending on the style of song. I have like Paranoia that I've fucked something up. So the guitar is, I think, kind of interesting. Guitar was never interesting me in the past. So here's my DIs. They're being sent to the quad. But I went through a bunch of iterations of tones on this. I used a bunch of Neural DSP amps. In the beginning, I had like the same. My trifecta, like my amp stack for Sooth 2 was 2 Neural DSP amps that were super beefy, and then plus Easy Mix. This is the Easy Mix preset I've used on like kind of like, I think just 2 of them. I don't know what I used on Carnival, but on Deprive and Blacker Child, this is the guitar tone. This preset. So, and then I used a different Neural DSP stack of 3 different amps And I was like, the guitars, I can't get the guitars to like match up to the rest of the mix. So I was gonna get a Kemper, but I started hitting up all my guitar and gear buddies, and all of them said, get the quad. So I got the quad. And these are the tones for the guitars now, the reamped. Not the... What's this bass sound like part here with the finger? You know what I mean? See what I mean? It's more brutal than the pick. The finger is way more brutal. So yeah, it's funny because with the QC, I actually there's a tone that I like to practice in right now, and I think it sounds better than the tone I used. But then when I reamped it, something about this tone just sounds way better in the mix, and that's actually why I bought an amp modeler, because when I was watching the Amur in the mix, or what is it called? In the mix? Is it called In the Mix? I'm going crazy now. We're only 45 minutes into this. They were talking about how they had the whole thing mixed at the very end. That's when they loaded up the presets, and they just picked one that sounded good with the mix. They said it didn't sound good with the project. It just sounded good in the mix. And like surprisingly, that's how this one worked out. It was 100% manifested. That's all the guitar on this song. Some of the other ones have like little leads or, you know, sounds. I had a lot more, but I think I trimmed down a lot of it on the remaster. So that's kind of the bulk of things. The synth bus, I put Ozone Imager 10%, which I usually put on my master, but I just put it on the synth bus to kind of widen it up a little bit. I love this plugin, but I just didn't want to put it in the master. Golfos again, a lot of recovery. Look at that. I mean, this reacts to whatever sound you put it through. You know, little OTT, great setting by the way, 10%. And the smile for probably some effects. And then I'm clipping it, and the clipper is just at 0, but set on hard. Let's go into the synths on this song. You know, random effects, flesh squish, cymbal stuff. This is a cool one. This is just some pad. It's just pitched around. Pretty straightforward. Has a shifter on it. So there's one that's like 12 semitones quieter than the original. Just add some like depth to it, you know. They're both reverbed a little bit. You see the EQ, a little bit of this OTT plugin. I used to only use the Ableton OTT, but this one is just like simpler in some ways, so I use it sometimes. And then I'm soothing it. I don't know why I'd soothe. I did get soothed on this project, so maybe I was using it a little too much. But no, I remember I had a note to put soothe on that. And then I'm clipping it. But it's not really being clipped. I guess it's just on as like a precautionary. Other random sounds, little breath. I love that sound in the song. It sounds great. Love that sound too. And then you got this drone underneath this whole part, which you can really hear at the end of the song, but it's actually done this whole last part. Same with like this Foley from a cemetery. Dope. This is a massive X preset. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even know how to read this thing right now. It probably is not showing the preset because it's from another session, you know. I actually didn't even have Massive X installed when I opened this up, but I'm hooked on this. It's like crucial to the sound to me. OTT, Easy Mix, what's Easy Mix doing? Some distorted thing, some keyboard preset. EQ, OTT, and then I'm adding 3 dB again with like a limiter at the end, aka soft clip. This is a dope thing. This is one of my favorite synth sounds in the whole album. So, the way I did the synths on this record is basically, I mean, I have one group for some shit I did really early on. Like in I Feel, there's all this renders from the Virus TI. So like basically all the Virus TI stuff is in this one group. And then when I came through, actually these songs, So Vast, like the last, I don't know, 5 tracks in the album were all written with synths in mind. This is kind of interesting liner note too. If you're in the Discord, you could be involved in these kind of conversations. They happen quite often on the Discord. But I was still working on Caterpillar when we wrote these songs. And I was kind of in between on this, right? And then all of these songs were written at the end. And I think we wrote these first 2 songs. Or maybe I think we definitely did this song. And that's when I started doing Soothe. So when we did this, I was still working on Caterpillar. And then when I was working on this with Garrett, I was working on Soothe. So it's like literally if you put on Caterpillar and then play this in between and then went to Soothe, it would be like the chronological transition between those sounds of Disfiguring. It's a shame that they didn't come out chronologically. I'm actually reverting the track listing to being this in this order, which is the chronological order where we wrote it at, instead of starting here and then going here and then how the original one goes. We don't talk about the original one much unless you like it. A lot of people actually like it, which is surprising to me because I don't even like it. But yeah, that's basically the mix. There's some clean vocal parts. That's very similar to how the other vocal chains are processed in some different songs. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I went through everything. We found a couple glaring issues in my production already, which is great because I was like I said earlier, like this is gonna go to Bandcamp. And you could probably find the link in the video below. And I probably will put it on Bandcamp before I upload this video. But I'm going to submit it to distribution tonight. Or right now, basically. It's 6:45 now, so maybe tomorrow morning. Who knows? And then I always stopped Spotify. With the way Spotify is now, like back in the day, you could just like make a TuneCore account, send it to iTunes, and then make a YouTube video telling everybody, or a Facebook post, and it would reach everybody, right? But now it's like Spotify It's like there's the New Music Fridays, which is great, but there's all these editorial playlists and whatnot, and these editorials are like they're not just on Spotify; they're on everything, and they're ran by human beings, so you gotta build relationships with these people, and I think Disfiguring is in a position to deserve some relationship building with these people, So I'm gonna give this record the proper pitch, which means it's done today. It's gonna come out on February 9th, and give everyone in the industry enough time to listen to it to decide if they want to put it in their editorial playlist. But in the meantime, for the fans and for myself and for all of us to get on with our lives, I'm putting it on Bandcamp for free immediately once I send it to the distributors, right? So that's kind of what's going on. I want to give a shout out to my management, Unchained Management. I want to give a shout out to the people who handle Disfiguring the Goddess merches, Benchmark Merchandise. I want to give a huge shout out to the Discord server. It's got a great vibe going. I really loving the community right now. It's kind of reminding me of like back in the day. I wish we had Discord back in the day. It'd be great. It would have been great. Discord back in the day would have been awesome. But it's awesome now. And it's kind of starting up, really. So come in while the water is like clean. I'm just kidding. But I want to give a shout out to is it Submission Audio? Yeah, for hooking up with Gin Bass too. I love it. Sounds great. Shout out to the Quad Cortex. Shout out to Stephen Young, a.k.a. Origin Orias, who's helped me a lot. Shout out to Colton Bennett from Angel Maker and Gorehammer for helping me out a lot with this. Shout out to Shiv the Impaler for being good ears on this. Shout out to Barbaric Brutality for being awesome. Shout out to Deluxo for being a G. Shout out to the Hydra for being a G. Shout out to the Discord server in general. Like, seriously awesome place. Shout out to Bandcamp. Anyone who wants to get it on Bandcamp, it's for free. Grab it. But yeah, that's the mix preview walkthrough. So I got a couple things out of this. I was almost like hoping to get a couple things out of this, to like almost like check my mix with like accountability from talking to, like, there's no one in here right now, but I know I'm talking to people. You know what I mean? So hope it was helpful. I hope this is all recorded too. But yeah, thank you. Keep in touch. Download the record, share it with your friends, and Disfiguring the Goddess forever.